Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Movement Mastermind. I'm Cheryl Litzar, joined by Vern Schellinger for your Friday morning pick-me-up, job search pick-me-up. So let's go ahead and get into questions that you have for us. What can we answer for you? Yes, Miss Sonia.
I felt like Cinderella this week because I've gotten a lot of attention. But I had an interview that was it was our first, it was scheduled for the beginning of the week. And then I got a note saying, I'm not going to make it. I'm sick. I was like, oh, okay. And
the interviewer said this?
Yes, the recruiter. And in my mind, I was like, okay, they're not going to call me back. Okay. So I was fine, moved on. And they did. They called me back. And yesterday I had the meeting. And then she said it was a 30-minute meeting, in the previous communication. But it was no interview. It was like she had a list of questions. And the questions were they were application questions. Meaning? Are you over 18? Yes. Oh. Do you have benefits, building experience? Yes, I'm a subject matter expert. Can you, do you have what HRIS technologies you have? I went down the list, Paylocity, Coursera, all this kind of stuff. And when it was over, she said, and she did touch the salary. I think that's going to do it for me. It'd probably wipe me out, but I don't care. And she said, well, I'm going to talk to my manager and I'll let you know. I didn't get to ask anything. I don't know anything about the company. I know where it's located. But outside of that, I don't know who the position reports to. She gave me a brief synopsis of the company, which it really told me nothing. I had never experienced a interview like that.
What kind of company was it?
It was a technology company, one of those data centers, type of thing. And that was one of the questions. Have you ever operated in IT? Look at my resume. It says I have been HR director for a cybersecurity company. I've been it for satellite communications and satellite operator. I mean, it was so, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing. And do I expect to hear from her again? No, I don't. But it was just,
you never know. I mean, like those things. That's a little extreme, frankly. It can happen where you have, and I'm guessing this was a more junior level recruiter.
I'm assuming it sounds it to me.
Yeah, that's just their checkbox policy. I don't know why they did it exactly that way, but it can happen. It's unusual.
Yeah, I was in a conversation with a colleague this week, and we were talking about how broken the talent acquisition function is. It's embarrassing, and but it is all we have, so we have to work with it and work within it.
That's right. You gotta go with the flow.
Yeah, but I just had to share that because I have not had anybody do that to me. Like I said, I didn't get asked one question. I never not ask a question, but I didn't ask one question. I was like, it was like I said, it was like an application on it was over the phone.
Here's the thing, Sonia. Let me just sort of address something. And this is a general statement. Regardless of how you are treated by the recruiter, it is your job to both showcase your candidacy in the best way possible and get your questions answered. A lot of times candidates make it about the recruiter, and it's never about the recruiter. The recruiter is just a liaison. Whether you are treated beautifully or not, or anywhere in between, you're not working for the recruiter. They're not your hiring manager. So they're just a gatekeeper. Your job is to manage the gatekeeper appropriately. Your job is to get your questions answered. Your job is to make sure that they understand why you're best qualified, culture fit, all those things. Take control of it a little bit. I mean, don't be bullish, right? But actually put yourself out there and understand that not all recruiters know how to recruit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And in fact, we all kind of wing it. There's no degree in recruiting. We don't get trained in recruiting. Maybe we have a good mentor, maybe we don't. Everybody's personality is different. Some people are very transactional, some people are very relational, some people know more about the company or less about the company, have a better relationship with the hiring manager or not, or whatever. So given all of that, your job is to say, regardless of who this person is, you still have to get through them to the hiring manager. Get your questions answered. Present yourself in the best way possible. Just understand that's
Okay.
every recruiter is different.
Yeah,
Don't make it about them.
One of the forms that I use when I'm working with clients on interviewing, the first thing it says on interviewing, expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
And you
Go with
just,
it.
I mean, every company, every recruiter, it's always going to be a little bit different. Now, the process itself obviously has lots of commonalities, but it's always going to be somewhat of a unique experience every time you're connecting to a recruiter or a company.
That's right. That's right.
I won't forget that. But there, just FYI, there is a certification for recruiters.
Yes, there is. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is it has more to do with the sourcing side of things, unless I'm mistaken. Like
I haven't taken
for
it.
candidates.
Yeah, I haven't taken it, but I've talked to others who've done it. And
Did they say that it's actually about the interview process, or is it more just about sourcing candidates?
it's about, well, sourcing candidates is the biggest part, because that's
Right.
the revenue generation side. But you still, there's a way you got to get pertinent information, and there's a way you have to present it. And then there's that thing called candidate care.
Yes, candidate care.
And which I love.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just had to share that just in case anybody went through it. I've never had no one on a call ask me, "Are you a U.S. citizen?" I got asked that. I was like, "Of course." Anyway, I passed the torch.
Okay, Sarah, it's good to see you. It's been a while. Welcome. You're on mute.
Okay.
Nice
Hi.
to see you.
Yeah, it has been a while. I haven't been able to come, but this morning I'm free.
Good. We'll hand you the mic here. Do you want to do you have a question for us?
Yes. One of the things I'm finding is that I'm trying to get a job in sales. I have 20 years of experience, but it ended in 2015.
Mhm.
And since then, I've had 2 other jobs, but people, when I interview for sales jobs, they ask me, well, why didn't you go into sales after your previous 20-year experience?
Mhm.
I don't know what to say.
What's the reason?
Yeah, what is the reason?
Yeah.
The reason was that other opportunities presented themselves, and I took them. They sounded good at the time, and I took them.
Can you be more specific can you be more specific as to why you took them? What sounded good to you about them?
Oh, well, they were federal jobs, and that was appealing. And
wait, hold up. I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna get a little more weedy here, okay? Because your question is, how do I overcome it? The more authentic you can be with your answer, the more receptive they're going to be to your answer. So what was it about the federal government that was appealing to you?
I really want to get experience so that I can, well, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I applied for jobs. Some things presented themselves. I said, okay, and I took it, and that's the answer. I applied to a variety of things. I applied to sales positions, and those are what popped up that hired me.
So,
You
so,
know,
the-
other options didn't.
so at the time in 2015, then you were trying to get into sales, and for whatever reason, you couldn't find a job. You found this job in the federal government and it was appealing, and you thought it'd be a learning experience.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to get back into sales.
Exactly. That's right.
Right? I mean, you've got to have, to Shira's point, you've got to be as authentic as possible and just say,
Right.
here's what happened. And,
Yeah.
and now I really do want to get back into sales.
That's right. Yeah, you could just say, I ended up making a career pivot. And after looking for sales opportunities, there were a couple of other things that came my way. I said, okay, happy to try it. You did, and now you're ready to come back. That's
Okay.
it. Pretty simple. And part of why people would ask you that is to make sure that you actually want to be in sales.
Yeah.
Because if you were in it for a long time and you left it, sometimes people would think, oh, well, she left it because she didn't want to be in it anymore, which isn't the case. It was just in the job market or whatever, it was just a situation where it wasn't necessarily your desire to leave it, but you fell into a couple of other things.
And,
Okay.
and when I took the job with the federal government, here are a few things that I learned that I think helped me in my career, have built my skills, but now I'm ready to go back into sales.
Okay.
And another thing you can do when you explain, Sarah, is maybe say that, describe it as a transitional, like opportunity, like you went to this position while you continued to look for sales jobs, to generate like some
Mhm.
income or whatever, for
It's
stopgap.
been so many years since
Yeah.
since 2015. That's like 7 years. It's been 7 years since I,
Well, you could even say to Tabby's point, look, I took these other jobs, but I always had sales in the back of my mind, which is true, right? Didn't you always want to be in sales? So
yeah.
yeah. So sales was always in the back of my mind, and now I have an opportunity to pursue it again. And I'm really excited to be here. Be positive about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, how you communicate the answer is just as important as what you say.
That's right.
So if you communicate it with positivity, enthusiasm, confidence, look, had a little blip on the screen in my career. Couple of opportunities came my way while I was looking for sales jobs. I decided to pursue them, but man, I am so excited and ready to be back here and working and looking for a new sales opportunity. And then focus on them, pivot the conversation to them, to that company, that opportunity, why you're interested in them, why you're so excited to be in that interview. Just keep it focused on them.
Okay.
Yeah, enthusiasm goes a long way. Trust me.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta get pumped.
Yeah, totally. And especially because you're in sales, you're selling yourself. Okay. And truthfully, anytime you're you're looking for a sales role, the employer is thinking about how you're selling yourself to them as an indication of how you might sell the company to the customer.
Okay.
All right. So if you are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, pumped up, sharp, ready to go, enthusiastic, they're going to envision you in that role with their customers.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So be positive.
A good
Yeah.
thing to do, Sarah, is get that story and practice it and practice it and practice it. Practice it with a colleague. Get as comfortable with that as you can be, so that when you're in the interview, it's going to come off just like Shira said.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Helpful?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
Sure. All right. Other questions?
Is there anything that can be done if you have an interview, you answer the question, but you don't feel that you did yourself justice, you didn't give enough that would result? The question specifically was how many people did you collaborate with on the project? You left some people out. You did explain like, hey, these are the people, but there were some other people that collaborated, because this is a big part of the job, collaboration. Is there anything that can be done? I mean, I wrote the thank you note. Pretty much I just like blow it. I didn't give a full answer, I guess.
Well,
It wasn't untruthful.
yeah, it
I'm
just
sorry.
wasn't. Well, if you realize that fact after the interview, then the thank you note actually can be a good place to mention that. And if you wrote the thank you note and you forgot to mention it in the thank you, oh, you could write one more note. You say, look, I wanted to just share one more thought with you. You'd asked this question about collaboration, and I could have given a fuller answer. Here's my actual answer. And I was
Okay.
reflecting on it.
Great. I'm working with a recruiter too. So I did, and tell me if I'm wrong, I wrote the thank you notes directly to the people that interviewed me. And then I also went back and talked to the recruiter. So is there space, you think, to me to go back to recruiter again and say,
Yes.
well, I just wanted to add this.
Yes.
Just,
Yes.
just wanted to add. Okay.
Yeah. Now, yes, absolutely. Go back to recruiter. Now, you might be harping on this. This it actually may not be a big deal for the employer. You just don't know
Exactly.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need to go, if you go back to the recruiter, say, look, there was an answer that I could have satisfied better. I don't know if this is something that was a hang up for them. If it was, I have a fuller response. But maybe as far as you know, maybe that you just check the box just fine.
Well, it could be. I mean, they're looking to the key components of this job are customer service and collaboration, because
Right.
it's a smaller association.
Mhm.
It's basically 3 people are doing this job. They're putting it into one job, and this person's going to be the point person after, say, like 6 months.
Okay.
So basically,
I'd go back to the recruiter. And when did you have your interview?
yes, yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Call the
Okay.
recruiter today, because the recruiter may or may not have gotten feedback yet from the employer. And so
Okay.
make sure that did you do a feedback call with the recruiter?
Yes, I did a brief one,
Okay.
one that just wanted to, I just told her that I thought I was a great fit because of my customer service skills and my association and regulatory experience.
Right. So this added piece, I would call her and say, there was this one area about collaboration. I could have given a fuller answer. Not sure how they feel about that, but would you communicate this back to them?
Okay.
Or
Okay, great.
or maybe the recruiter can give you some insight into that. Again, if the recruiter got some feedback, and again, to Shira's earlier point, maybe it's a big deal to them. Maybe it's not even. Maybe
Right.
it's not that critical. So that's where the recruiter might be able to help you navigate. You know, how big of an issue is this really?
Right.
No.
Is it a mountain or is it a molehill?
Yeah, right. And if it's a good recruiter, they should be able to help you or communicate your message or make sure the employer knows
Yes.
what you're trying to communicate to them.
Yes.
Is it a good practice to email them first, the recruiter, or call them directly? Email and say, could you talk?
You could do both. I mean, recruiters
Okay.
if it's an actual full-time recruiter, they're always on the move. So they very well may pick up the phone if they see it's your name. And if leave a message, text them. But yes, you could certainly email them. But I know most recruiters are kind of like move, go. So feel free to pick up the phone, leave a text, and we follow up with an email.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I would deal with the recruiter, not how I would deal with the hiring manager.
Right. I'm not going to talk to the hiring manager
Right.
again until necessary. I know that she did share with me like there probably one more step of one more interview until they make a selection.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
I recently had 2 sets of interviews for an organization, a very reputable organization. The first set of interviews was with 2 women, went very well. And afterwards, they told the recruiter, only good things, he said. And he said, I think they're going to hire you. But first I had to do the second set of interviews, which involved a woman who was based in DC, and she was at the equivalent of like VP. And the male was out in California. And I didn't do as good a job, I felt, afterwards. And then I kept calling the recruiter once a week to find out, have you heard anything? And then one day he sent me an email and it said they've decided to wait a month, to give it a month.
Mm.
So I take that as I didn't pass the second set of interviews, because in this hiring environment where it's difficult to find good employees, I feel that they would have jumped on me, had it been positive.
You're probably right. Typically if an employer finds the right fit, they move, right? And if they don't, they wait.
Well, at this point in time, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I guess it depends too. Doesn't it depend on if it's early in the hiring process? If like you're one of the first ones interviewed?
That's different. That's different.
Yeah.
That's just, you're right. That's just more they've got to go through their process. But if they say they want to wait a month, look, I mean, there could be something else going on internally that they have to wait a month for some reason. But if in Sarah's case, if she reached out and the response she got was they're waiting a month, that's different than saying, look, please hold on. We think you're great. We have this internal something or another going on. And we've got to wait a month. Oh, please let us know if anything changes on
yeah, none of
If
that.
they had said that, that's different.
Right.
Or if they had said, look, you're one of our first, candidates. Thanks so much. We're going to be interviewing for the next 2 weeks or what. Fine. You got to have to read between the lines.
So I had a question. So typically, I don't know whether there's a clear answer to this or not, but is there a typical standard to how many interviews companies do?
Well, there's sort of. I mean, usually, okay. So typically it's 1 or 2.
Okay.
Easily could be 3. That would be the most in terms of what I'd call a normal situation. Now,
Yeah.
there are abnormal situations. For example, Capital One. Capital One, it's basically easier to get into Fort Knox than it is to get hired by Capital One.
Mhm.
Not kidding. Last I knew, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it was something like 14 interviews.
Yeah.
Because you're meeting with up, down, across every department. That's extreme. But 1, 2, or 3 is normal.
I was interviewed at least like 4 times by Edward Jones, and then
Yeah.
my financial advisor for them was interviewed 10 times at least.
Some
So,
companies want
yeah.
everybody to meet you.
Yeah.
Again, expect the unexpected. It might be 1 or 2, it might be 14.
That's right.
You just don't know.
That's right.
I have a question in relations to what you're saying. Does that discourage people from wanting to work there because you put them through so much? Because I've had some people come at me where, okay, you mentioned Capital One, and yes, they got so many levels, they have an assessment and all of this. And I've talked to several people that process of putting them through all that is discouraging, that they move on. Now, here in the Washington, D.C. area, that can happen because people will get a job somewhere else. But from a business perspective, from Capital One, I understand their bank, you can get information if, you're doing a background check to find out. But to put people through all of that,
Well,
and then they still don't get the job.
Well,
and then wait, one more point. What they will do is spread the word among their network. You don't want to work for them because they put you through unnecessary stuff. It's just a job.
I get it, Sonia. So look, I'm not agreeing with their philosophy necessarily, but here's what I will say. When a company chooses to go that particular route, this is exactly what it tells me. Ready? That they are absolutely rigorous about finding the right culture fit. I don't know if I've ever seen a resume from Capital One. Now, mind you, I'm not in the banking recruiting world, but I don't hear about people leaving Capital One. I don't hear about turnover. I don't hear about that kind of stuff. They are so rigorous that to make sure that it's the right culture fit, that by the time the assumption is by the time you get there, you've got a really harmonious culture. You've got people who really belong there. And so they're doing the whole measure twice thing. Well, they're measuring 14 times before cutting once. So if you ever have to go through that kind of process, I would encourage you as a candidate to think of it from that perspective. They really, really, really want to make sure that I'm going to be a good family member, as opposed to the opposite, where an employer does very little screening. In fact, have you ever seen that happen? I've had candidates actually shocked by that, where somebody
Yeah.
barely interviews you, like, okay, you got the job. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Whoa, wait,
And that's
what?
scary too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
They didn't
scary. You
take
be
the
like,
time.
oh goodness, what have I gotten into?
Right, that's right. So actually being more thorough is a good thing, or can be a good thing, because they're taking the time to make sure it's right for everybody. Okay.
Well, I have a couple of colleagues in specific. One of them, he's top notch. I mean, he's pure gold. And he went through the assessment and he passed and went on through. And then he pulled out. It was just ridiculous from his perspective.
Mhm.
And then I have another colleague who went through and got the job.
Mhm.
Now you would think if someone went through there and got the job, they would be in like Flynn.
Yeah.
Within a year, she had moved on to another company.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, what's going on in Capital One? That's well, I'm HR. I'm gonna think like that.
Sure.
You know, what's going on up in there? Why do these people not, why didn't they stay in it? The guy he was the end, but he was like, I don't, and then he
You never
moved
know.
on.
Look, you
Well,
never
yeah.
know.
We'll
All I can
never
tell
know
you
the
is
answer.
it's
Yeah.
rigorous.
I mean, the other point, Sonia, from a HR standpoint, from a culture standpoint, I'm looking at it, if I'm at the senior level now in Capital One and we want to create this type of culture
Mhm.
and we want this harmonious culture, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
And we understand it's a rigorous process, and we understand we may piss people off,
Right.
but we don't
Right.
care.
Right. Right.
This process
Right.
is more important to us
Right.
because we want to make sure that we get the right employees that
Yes.
will make our company the culture that we want
Just-
and Capital One successful.
And Amazon is similar. I don't
Yeah, they are.
I don't know if it's not necessarily the 14 levels, but they take everybody through the 14 leadership the 14 leadership principles that they have. You can check that out on the web. And every single candidate has to go through this rigorous vetting, right? Do you check off all the boxes? They're really, and guess what? I'm glad they do, because that's a really, really, really tough place to work, as we've talked about. So they should be putting people through the paces to make sure that they actually can handle the environment.
Okay, well, it works, but like I say, in DC, people will blow you off
And
because
that's okay. And they're okay with
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
They're like, if you can't go through our process, you're probably not right for us, right?
And then they end up with a tough reputation. It'll
Yeah.
shine
And-
people from
And you know
applying.
what?
And
You're okay with that too.
But the key is you can be missing some great talent, because I still say in any company, the people are your most valuable resource. I don't care how technical you are, you still need someone to push the button or to click the something. You need a person, and you need to get people in there and make them feel like they are of value to you. And that's the issue that I think these companies are getting. You can do that outside of DC, but in DC, the sky's the limit.
It's true. And employers need to value their people more. I preach that a lot. I know Vern does too. This is kind of and at the same time, if the culture is a very demanding culture, for example, they don't want someone who's going to leave after 3 months. They want to make sure that the person is really right for that culture. So they're going to put them through their paces. And it's frankly, Sonia, it's not going to be right for everybody. In fact, it's not going to be right for most people. That's why they do it that way.
Right. I agree.
They're happy with people saying, no, this isn't right for me. Okay, fine, good. No, we want people who really fit into the culture. So anyway, we talked a lot about culture this morning, and that's, it's good. It's important for you too, because Sonia, to your point, if you don't want to go through that process, if you think that, if you feel like you're not being treated well, that's okay. Like, you need to figure out the culture for yourself too, not just them figuring you out for them, figure them out for you. And so anytime you go through this process, look at how they're engaging you. Now, again, with all due respect to the recruiter side of things, as I mentioned, they're just more the gatekeeper, but the process, the questions they're asking, how they're answering your questions, all of those things, asking questions about the supervisor, you asking questions about your teammates, you asking questions about the corporate culture. Ask those questions, see what they say. How do they say it? How do they frame it? Are they being cagey in their responses? Are they being effusive? What are they saying? Is it going to be right for you? And try not to have, ready? Try not to have a halo effect when you were looking at a job. Very, very, very easy to have a halo effect. And the halo effect basically says that you are focused on typically one thing about the job. It could be anything. You could like the mission. You could like the bullet number 5 on the job description, whatever, okay? And you go in and you're all enthusiastic. But whenever we have a halo effect, that means we're missing other things. Literally, our brain is not focused on anything else. All we can see is that thing. And they could be saying all kinds of it, and we're like, we don't hear la 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 la. We don't hear it. It's true. Take off the halo effects. Get real. Put on clear color glasses, not rose colored glasses. Really evaluate the opportunity, the culture, the supervisor, the compensation, the commute, whatever. Understanding that there's no perfect job. You have to weigh, you have to balance, you will have competing priorities, I promise you. You will have this thing that outweighs that thing, and you've got to be thoughtful about it all the way through the process. Is this really the job that it's right for me? On top of which, if you're in job transition and you need money and you need to put food on the table, that of course can outweigh things where you suddenly don't see the rest of what's going on because you're so focused on getting a job. The reality is when you get the job, are you going to stay in the job? Okay, now there's no guarantees in life, but the more rigorous you can evaluate them, just like they're evaluating you, that will help you to determine, is this going to be a longer term fit?
Yeah, in every situation, you just got to evaluate it from kind of top to bottom and what's important to you and
Yeah.
and what's important to you and what's important to me sometimes are two different things.
Yeah.
In other words, most people don't like to commute. So, commute, I want a short commute. Well, if everything else with the job looks great and it's a longer commute, well, I may still take the job, even though I know, okay, I'm going to have this long commute. I don't want to do that. But boy, everything else about this job is like perfect.
Exactly.
And there could be as many as 8 or 10 different factors that you really think about when you're evaluating, as Chira said, evaluating the whole job.
Yeah. A good way to do it is put down must-haves and nice-to-haves. Okay. What are your non-negotiables? What are your deal breakers? For some people, these days, a deal breaker is remote work. Some people insist on only applying to remote jobs. Okay. Now it's a challenge for employers. And I know, because I'm working on a couple searches now that are local, and they're like, we got very few candidates now. Where pre-pandemic, we would have had a bunch. Okay. Well, look, that's a game changer. So is that a must-have? Is that a nice to have? Are you actually open to doing hybrid for the right opportunity? That kind of thing, right? So just look at your checklist. And then when you are evaluating a particular opportunity, then do a pro-con list. What are the pros? What are the cons? And again, are there any non-negotiables, nice to haves, must-haves? That's going to help you prioritize as to, where you should go forward, or if you should go forward.
Sure. I have a question. One of my biggest problems is I have 2 jobs, and I'm having a hard time finding time to apply because I like to tailor each resume for the
Right.
particular job.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm at work.
Oh,
BTVs?
That's a challenge. That's always a challenge for people. If you have a job, finding the time to search for the next opportunity.
I'm really sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm having trouble finding time to work on my resumes because I think it's important to tailor each one. But since I work so many work hours, do you think that I could does it serve any purpose to just send in my resume to some like a Hail Mary pass.
No, Sarah, no. If you're going to spend time on anything in your job search, it's the resume. You've got to tailor it. Even if you got to do it on Saturday afternoon, whatever, like spend the time, because that's your first impression. The employer doesn't know what's going on in your personal life. All they see is that one document. Okay. Either it's tailored to their job or it's not. And if it's not, that's no good for you. Like that's not, you got to make the time. If you're going to spend the time anywhere,
Yeah.
it needs to be focused there. I mean, that and of course, networking and making sure that you get an internal champion. That's huge. Because if you just, we've talked about this before, right? If you just send your resume in sight unseen, they just have this one document. They'll glance over it. They might miss things. They may not even get it because of spam, or they might not get it because it's, in the bottom of the applicant tracking system, whatever. You getting an internal champion helps to get yourself noticed. So the tailoring of your resume and the internal champion are two major ways to get an interview.
Melanie Woods down in Texas,
Okay.
you know who she is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what is the group that sends me ads every single day about classes, the ministry,
Mm-mm.
career ministry?
Oh, Career Network Ministry?
Yes.
Oh, CNM. Oh, okay, sorry.
So I participated in one of their seminars,
Yeah.
and they referred me to her. She's down in Dallas, I believe, and she has a series of YouTubes that are fantastic. And so once a year, her group does an analysis of the format that's needed for resumes in order to make it through applicant tracking systems.
Oh,
And she had some really good advice.
oh, great.
So I revamped my resume, reformatted it,
Great.
and I still, I was called by this organization, but the recruiter did inform me that my resume still had not made it through the applicant tracking system.
Okay.
So I'm finding that to be a challenge too.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't make it through, but that's a struggle as well.
Yeah. ATS is our problem. And they're a problem for recruiters too, just so you know. Recruiters don't like their ATSs either because they can't find the right candidates. They've got thousands of resumes in there and they've got to put in the right keywords. And if you don't have the right keywords, and then there's an algorithm, right? It's a database. So they'll put in a keyword and hopefully the ATS is finding the right keyword in the right place. It's a challenge. It just is, because once we went online, remember back 1,000 years ago, we used to do everything via paper and people actually had to read, like physically read. Once we went online, they had to find a way to streamline it. And that means that there's glitches. Yeah. So like I said, the internal champion is a really important piece of all of this, really important. If you can find on LinkedIn, anybody who works there, particularly the hiring manager or executive or just anybody. And if you're a second level connection to them, you could try to leverage your first level mutual contact to get you noticed, if at all possible.
Okay.
Regarding the internal champion, after the second interview or after the interview with the hiring manager, is it too late to try to find an internal champion?
After the second level interview?
Well, after you have the interview with the hiring manager, interview with the recruiter, interview with the
at that point, it's a different kind of internal champion. Then that's almost more like an unsolicited reference. Well, not even really. Sorry, I shouldn't say it that way. I'm thinking about somebody who from the outside. No, at that point, once you're in, you're in. If there's somebody internal who knows you really well and knows that you've applied, knows you've interviewed, they could put in a good word for you.
Yeah.
Also, but by that point, it would just reinforce their decision making. It may not overcome any objections, but it might just reinforce if they say, oh, wow, we really like Ty. Oh, Susie, you know Ty? Oh, yeah, tell us about him. And then it'll reinforce it.
Well, the closest I've been able to find with an internal champion is same school, exact same degree, but I haven't contacted that person yet.
Meaning it's not a person who knows you.
No, I did not know.
Then if that's the case, I would still, if that's the only contact.
Yeah, that
still
would be
reach
the
out.
only person I've identified that.
Reach out, and what's in it for them is that sometimes there are employee referral bonuses. So if they refer you in, they might get $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 bonus if you stay 6 months or a year. So they don't have to recommend you, but they can refer you
Okay, thank you.
in. Mhm. And I will say that if you've the tricky part is if you've already applied, they may or may not get that bonus because then you've applied first. But in any event, you never know. But I would still say, hey, would you mind flagging my resume to the hiring manager? And by the way, speaking of that, even before applying, if you do have an internal champion or if somebody you can find internally, you could say, look, I haven't yet applied. If you have an employee referral bonus and you would like to refer me in, I'd be happy to mention your name in my application.
That's good. That's some leverage there.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's the strength of the relationship. And the example you're using, Ty, I mean, you don't know this person. You went to the same school, you had the same degree. Now you may be able to connect with them through LinkedIn. And again, he might be able to say something on your behalf to the hiring manager, which can't hurt. But if you have an internal champion who knows you well, who worked with you, who knows your communication style, to knows that you're a team player, and they're making that same pitch to the hiring manager, that's just a stronger, recommendation. So,
Jonathan, do you have any questions?
you're on mute, Jonathan, I think.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Thank you. I did have a simple one, but when I came on, I was later and I heard something about storytelling. So I thought I'd mention that Pat Romboletti is going to have a talk next Thursday on storytelling. And I can put the link in the chat for
Yes.
the sign up and register. So
Yeah.
there it is. My question was for industries on LinkedIn. How do you choose it? Is one better than another? Originally, my LinkedIn was set up for higher education because I started it through where I graduated, and I changed it, and I don't know if that's really useful or not.
Are you talking about the headline underneath your picture?
The industry in that section, yes, but it doesn't show. At least I don't
Oh,
see
you're
it.
talking the industry, checking off the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little tricky, right? I will say that LinkedIn's recently changed. And when I say recently, I don't know, last 6 months or something, where they no longer have as finite a list of industries. They've actually expanded it. So what you can do, and I'm not saying it's perfect because it's still a standardized list, but you can go back to your industry list. Do you know where to find it?
Yes.
Okay, so you go back to the industry list and start, erase whatever you have, start typing in the letters of what you think. So for example, didn't you say you're in physics somehow? Something you're in STEM somehow.
Yeah.
What would I'm sorry, you're some kind of scientist, is that right?
Computational scientist.
Computational science. Yeah. Now it is an industry list, not a career list, although there are some careers that they list as industries like human resources or marketing, because they're thinking about a human resources firm or whatever. You could start typing in, computational science is pretty specific. I doubt that they're going to have that, but maybe there's this like scientific something or engineer something, or it'll pop up a laundry list of things that start with those letters. Play around, I guess is my point.
Okay.
It's no longer, it's just a standard like 30 list. They've expanded it. Try it in different permutations and see if there's something that comes up in the list that relates to what you do.
Okay. I was wondering about that because I was thinking, well, maybe recruiters, when they're looking for somebody, they look for students, but I wouldn't qualify for any of the student programs for hiring. And maybe they, would, well, choose something that I didn't choose. So it's like, I guess I want to find out which are the most popular industries that they look for that would be close to.
It's not about popular, it's
Not
more
really.
about what's related to them, like what they're coming from their perspective. So if they want someone who has higher education, then they're going to look for higher education. If they want someone with engineering, so you can't really think about what's popular. It has to be, you're not going to know what they're going to
Okay.
need. All you
Okay.
can do is be authentic around what you have, and then hopefully what they're looking for is what you have.
Yeah. And what you should focus on is, where do you feel your skills are? Where do you feel how does your skills and experience fit in today's job market? What type of jobs do you
Right.
see yourself being successful at?
Yeah, there's just so many, and they're so specialized. It's like, instead of, as you said, instead of having a few more general topics, it's like one kind before is now like 100 kinds. It's all specialized.
Well, again, to Shira's point just a minute ago, the recruiter, you were saying popular, and Shira says it's not about popular. I mean, the recruiter has a job.
Right.
And the job is very specific to a specific industry, to a
Right.
specific function, human resources, marketing, computer science, programming, whatever it is. And so you've got to be able to figure out for yourself where, given your skills and experience, what types of jobs, and you do some research, what types of jobs, do I see myself most closely aligned with?
Okay.
And then go back to your LinkedIn profile and try to make that align to, at least in general,
Yeah.
let's say it's computer programming, then and if you have skills and experience there, you try to create a LinkedIn resume that says to the recruiter, I'm a computer programmer and here's my skills and experience. Then,
Yeah.
Then you're matching yourself with what they're looking for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and anybody you can find who does what you do. I think we might have talked about this last time. Having informational interviews with colleagues,
Yes.
with people who are in that sector, people who can advise you both in your direction. Like we are a very generic call here, right? Like we're not necessarily in your space. Okay, we're all just people in the career world. But when you can find people who do what you do in your sector, they're going to give you much more tailored advice, more customized advice, hopefully make connections for you. Try to hang, there's an expression, fish where the fish are. Okay, right? So we're in this little group, but we're kind of like the ocean. We got a bunch of schools of fish. Our fish are colored very differently, okay? We got tuna what's next to the tilapia on this call, okay? But you want to hang out with the tilapia, okay? Go find your tilapia. And those are the people who are going to help you really hone and customize. I mean, continue to come to groups like this, of course, but right, focus. And I was actually I gave this advice, I think it was yesterday, to a coaching client. She's a pharmacist, okay? And I got her involved. I said, she's in Georgia. And I said, go ahead and get involved with the Georgia Pharmacists Association. And she did. She jumped in the pool and started swimming with the fish. And she went to networking events and she got cards and I help you, and Zoom chats, and amazing, right? And then she said, but I've got this other networking group that's a very kind of generic kind of thing. She said, should I go? I said, well, you can go. I said, but the chances of them actually knowing pharmacists that you can connect with are going to be slim. You can go for fun. You never know who you might meet. Sure, have at it, but don't focus there. Focus networking with people who do what you do, who know what you do, who are swimming with the same school of fish. Okay, so your world, that STEMmy world, STEM, higher ed, that whole thing, go find those people. Get on Meetup. Like our group right now, this higher moment mastermind is on Meetup. That's how some people find us, actually. Get on Meetup. Look for computational scientists. I don't know. Like, look for people who do what you do. Hang out with them. They're going to give you the best advice and they're going to make the best connections.
The other piece of advice they might give you is they might inform you of jobs or roles in that space that you weren't even aware of. you know, so, you know, and then when you know, they say, if you thought about this and you do some research and you find a job description and you start looking at it and say, wow, you know, this really matches some of my skills and experience. And so it might uncover whole new paths for you to follow in terms of your job search.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I just had a quick comment to follow up on what Sonia said earlier. I had another interview with a different organization. The first question from the interviewer was, why do you want to leave your current job? And I answered the question. I was very polite about it, but apparently this recruiter who had the title senior in front of them for the organization didn't look at my resume before, or didn't, unless that was intended to be asked that way.
Well, hold up a second time. The question was why oh, I see. Because you're saying because you're not employed and they should have
Yes,
seen
correct,
that?
correct.
Well, look, we recruiters are going Mach 5 with our hair on fire. Okay. So if for you've prepared for the interview, it's singular focus for you, but we have got dozens of candidates that we're looking at. So you got to give a little grace, right? Because a lot of times people are like, they've read it, but they didn't read it. And they've read it 2 minutes before, they're not looking at it. Don't worry about it. It's just, it's all good. It's all good. Really.
I'm gonna piggyback what Ty said, because for me, that's very frustrating for them to talk to me about something that's not even related, is not on my resume. I'm like, why are you talking to me about this?
Yeah,
It's very frustrating to me to know that you did not read my resume.
yeah.
And then you asking me, do I want to be an HR coordinator? Where on my resume
Right.
is it written that I am a coordinator?
Yeah. No, there's
Oh, that's very frustrating.
there's an extreme, and right, and sometimes recruiters are going way too fast, and frankly, sometimes recruiters are not skilled enough, frankly, to understand the difference in different levels, right? Maybe they haven't been trained. Maybe they're a generalist. They're going across the board. So, for example, I don't do IT search. I mean, I've done a couple, right? I'm not like an IT recruiter. So for me, if I were to see, I don't know, a network engineer or this kind of engineer, this level, that level, I'd have to be trained, frankly, to understand the distinction between a this and a that. Now, yes, there's a difference between a coordinator and a vice president, obviously.
That's my point.
I know, I get it, but still, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel a little frustrated. And yet, it goes back to my original point. Don't put too much stake in how the recruiter is vetting you. Okay. Yeah, there's a delete button for a reason. There's a, hey, this isn't the right opportunity. Just go with the flow. Just go with the flow, honestly. And I will tell you, job seekers do that too. Do you know how many job seekers I've worked with who look at a job description and have that halo effect, don't realize that they are completely unqualified for the role? We recruiters get frustrated too. Didn't you see bullet number 1 under qualification said that you have to have healthcare experience, and the person's coming from consumer packaged goods? Like, and the candidate's like, either they didn't see it or they didn't care. And they're like, I just want to apply anyway. And that makes it frustrating for us because we have too many candidates who are unqualified. So it honestly goes both ways. It really does.
But I also looked at that question as an opportunity to spin it the way I wanted to, sort of change it and take control of the interview and say, well, you know, I'm in transition, but this is what I'm doing and this is what I've done or whatever, or put some type of spin on that with, you know, a positive spin on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Let's just do one round. We haven't done this in a while. Let's do one round robin. I know Sarah's stepped away, just so that everybody knows what everybody's looking for. I know, Eric, you've already gotten a job, so you can feel free to include yourself or not. But Ty, Sonia, and Jonathan, and then if Sarah comes back, we'll have her do it too. Just share the kind of opportunity you're looking for, that you think you're looking for, and the industry focus, if you have an industry focus. You may not. Okay, so the kind of job you want and the kind of industry you want. So Ty, do you want to go first?
I'm looking for a customer service, member services type job where I can interact with customers on a daily basis and assist them. The industry could be financial, something that I could get in and learn the subject matter and be a service to the customers.
So financial is kind of your sector.
Well, sort of. I feel like I've highly regulated industries. I've been in insurance. I've been in pensions. So that's sort of that area would be the specialty area.
Gotcha. Okay. And by the way, part of your pitch, I think, should be that you came from a communications background, because that was
Yes.
how you started. So you can say that
Yes.
I've shifted from a communications career into a customer service career. And
Okay,
I'm leveraging my communication skills in customer service.
great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. All right, Sonia?
I am looking for an HR leadership role. Starting at the director on up to VP or CHRO. My background is GovCon. I have over 25 years of experience in the government contracting. It covers the whole shebang, defense, federal government, you name it. And I'm looking to, I would prefer to be on the executive team. I work in strategy. I can do tactical, because during my transition time, I have been a contractor. And when you contract, you do whatever the statement of work requires. And but I'm looking for that role at the top for HR. I would like to report to whoever on the executive staff, president, COO, CAO, GC, CFO, any of those. And like I say, I like that IT world. I like organizations who are also in that like energy, role, IT that I don't really have good experience in. I did a consulting gig with an energy company, and I fell in love, and I didn't know anything about energy, and it was solar energy, and I would do that again in a heartbeat. That would be so ideal for me. But I like stuff that push me, that makes me, have to learn and stretch and so on. But I'm looking for that. I also have worked in the nonprofit arena, so I do apply to some of those. And it really depends on the nonprofit. All of them's not for me. I don't want to do the global development and things like that. That's not for me. I'm more of I can do, like I worked at American Diabetes. I can do organizations like that. So that's what I'm looking for. And it's a tough market out there, but more so than that, it's the lot of competition. And we'll see. It's a lot going on. Like I said earlier, I felt like Cinderella this week because I got a lot of attention. I've talked a lot this week, and I'm hoping.
Hopefully one of those will pop.
Yeah.
And then you'll get the glass slipper.
Yeah, I do. So I have a very good. I have a lot of hope for it. But I'm naturally optimistic, so I believe it's going to happen. So just stay tuned. The champagne is chilling. Get your glasses ready.
All right, we'll cheer for you. All right, Jonathan. I know you're still kind of figuring it out, but what do you think you're looking for?
Well, when you said that, I thought about the introduction I did put in chat last night at the Pat Romboletti Zoom call. And then I thought about my story that just developed some since Monday. So what I put in the chat last night was an intrinsically curious computational scientist who loves solving puzzles, centered on physics, relates to engineering, technology, and other sciences, looking for entry-level science/technical government lab or similar with mentors and support for new employees. I don't know if that's, is that understandable? How does it come through?
I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great start, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I mean, you might refine it as you go along and get some feedback, but that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I included current version in it too, because I figured I'm going to be changing it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Good, it's good stuff. All right, Sarah, we are going around the room just talking about, you're just sharing what kind of job you're looking for and if there's an industry that you're focused on.
I am looking for a sales job, although I am open to other possibilities. And the industry, it doesn't, what I'm looking for is repeat sales. That's important in an outside sales position. So I'm looking for a company or organization that's mature in its understanding of sales, where there are delineations between the territories, so you don't have salespeople competing with each other, and a good climate. But of course, that's difficult to estimate beforehand. But yeah, and I mean, there are other jobs that catch my eye, and I do on occasion apply to them, which is why I got 2 other jobs after my sales job. So that's what I'm looking for.
Okay, I'm guessing you're not in a sales job right now.
No, I'm working for a real estate company.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Got it.
And
Wait,
it's
oh,
a
go ahead.
temp
You're
job.
temping. Okay.
Sorry.
I have a question for Jonathan. Are you working with a recruiter? Are you attached to any kind of staffing firm?
No, there was a recruiter who sent me something on LinkedIn and I contacted him later. So I talked with him, but one thing that he said was that computational engineer jobs, which is what he had, only come up a few times a year. So, but other than that, I don't have a particular recruiter or anybody else that I'm working with, except the people at CNM. John Foster said that he has a connection and he asked for my resume recently. So
In listening to you, and I'm not a recruiter, but I do look for talent myself. I think a recruiter could help guide you through, because you got stuff that companies that work in the area you do will want to hear. So I think if you could get yourself a recruiter in your industry, and you have to do a little research to do that. I don't know, Shira or Vern,
Yeah,
if you know
so-
someone.
Well, I don't deal with those kinds of folks. However, I think on LinkedIn, if you type in scientific recruiter, see what comes up, because you're going to get 2 kinds of recruiters. You'll get the ones that are corporate recruiters, meaning they work for a company, the company that hires you. And then there are third-party recruiters, headhunters, who work with multiple companies. But either way, if you type in recruiter and scientific or science, even engineering recruiter, technical recruiter, it could be also just technical recruiter. There are tons of those. And a technical recruiter, usually they're IT, and I realize you're like kind of part IT, part scientist. I don't know, like.
yes, yeah,
Right.
I dual track sort of
Okay.
work
So-
in school.
So I would type technical recruiter, scientific recruiter, science recruiter, something like that. And if you're open to working remotely, there are a lot of remote jobs out now. And you could just go on LinkedIn and hit connect all the way down the page, connect with those folks. And then you're not, and there's a little bit of a misnomer when we say working with a recruiter. So remember, the recruiter doesn't represent you. They represent the employer. Okay. So it's more like you want to be considered by a recruiter. You want to be on their radar if there's opportunities. So connecting with them is very important. And then look, if somebody's open to an informational interview, fantastic, but typically recruiters are too transactional for that. They're on to the next search. They got so much stuff going on. But at least if you connect with them, then when they leverage LinkedIn to find people who do what you do, and you have lots of keywords in your profile, all the different kinds of technical skills that you have, and when they're looking for those skills, you might come up. So that's why your LinkedIn profile is really, really important. It's got to be, as much as it has to be compelling, you need to have keywords in there that they can find.
And when you're talking to recruiters, you may only get to answer, maybe you can ask them 1 or 2 questions, because sure said they're moving, but the answers to those 1 or 2 questions might help you, again, figure out some of those keywords, give you some information about the types of jobs that you're looking for. So try to work with recruiters. And again, I would emphasize, work with people in your network, work with people that know you, and try to get from them information about the types of jobs that your skills and experience match up with.
Jonathan, I'm going to give you a homework assignment. It's going to be kind of hard considering you haven't done it already. But track down your former classmates and your former professors on LinkedIn. Connect with them and request a 30-minute Zoom call with them to talk about their career. It's just going to be kind of hard because you're probably going to make comparisons between yourself and them, but you shouldn't do that.
Very wise, Eric. It's a very wise suggestion.
Thank you.
Yeah. Those are the people who know what you do. You
Yeah,
know,
You can
and
tell I
give you
put
some
you in
mentoring
distress,
advice.
Jonathan.
What'd you say, Eric?
You can tell I put you in distress.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because this sounds really hard, doesn't it?
Well, Eric,
Yeah, I've been out of school for 10 years, and even then I was a commuting student. So I didn't go to a lot of events. I did go to some.
I mean, you had lab mates, didn't you?
Yeah. I worked on campus. So
Are
that
you
was good.
connected with them?
Sort of. I think there was only one of several that was on LinkedIn, and I did connect with a couple other people who worked in the astronomy labs.
Well, track down everyone you ever knew in school and connect with them, and then ask for a meeting to talk about their career.
Jonathan, I'm putting my email address in the chat. Send me an email, and I've got some information. I've got a lot of information about informational interviews. And,
Okay.
and before you just pick up the phone or try to connect with these people, one of the things you need to think about, okay, what questions do I want to ask them? How do I reach out to them? So it'll give you a little bit of structure, and it'll help guide you through that process. Okay.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Having a vocabulary of questions to ask would be really helpful.
Yeah.
In fact, Vern, I love to maybe in our next call, excuse me, on our next call, you can do like a mini workshop for us on that.
Sure. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And also, Jonathan, on LinkedIn, to even find those people, you could put in, whatever it is, like engineer or computational scientist or whatever it is, and then go to the all filters button and then go down to school and then search by school. And that'll help you narrow it down. Because even if they weren't your classmates per se, if they went to the same school, there's still a connection there for you that people might be open to, receiving your outreach.
Yeah, even if you don't know them, see if you can request the meeting anyways. Just ask them if they're in a field that you want. I mean, and don't ask them for anything. All you're going to there is to ask them about their career path.
Yep. I'm a fellow XYZ alum, wherever you went to school, and I am, trying to make deeper inroads in the computational science track. Would love to get a 30-minute informational interview with you to explore, to learn more about your career path and to see how I might be able to learn from your experiences.
Thank you.
Because you need clarity and specificity, Jonathan, and and learning about what other people are doing is going to help you a lot, and it's also going to give you opportunity to make connections. Oh, and remember, ask them who they know that can help you as well. That's one of the things Bob always says. Bob Korzeniewski always says.
Yep. That's right. Great advice, Eric. All right. So on that happy note, we'll go ahead and wrap up for today.
Oh,
And
well,
you-
I got
Oh,
one
you
thing,
do have something? Okay.
I got a start date.
You do?
Yes,
Your background check went through?
Yes, it cleared, yeah.
Yay! When are you
Yeah, so
starting?
And the
May
start
9th.
date is
Great. May
May
9th.
9th.
May 9th?
Yeah.
Yes, May 9th.
Oh, all right, very
Great.
good.
Great.
Eric.
Monday, May 9th, the day after Mother's Day.
Okay.
That's great. Well, if you would like to join us again, Eric, you are always welcome here. You've got great advice and a great spirit, and we're just delighted to have you part of our group. So come back anytime you can. I know it'll be during your work day, so I'm not sure if it'll work out, but if you would like to pop in, you're certainly welcome to. All right, good. So if any of you would like to stand for the short prayer call that I'm going to lead, feel free to. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing the rest of you next week, Lord willing. All right.
Here.
Thank you.
Everyone.